My name is Sandra Bradley, and I work for the Department of Human Services, VI Family Caregiver Support Program. And this program has been in operation for about 20 years, and I've been working there for the last 5 years. Now, this program, we provide support groups, we provide some reimbursements, counseling and trainings, reimbursement support groups for persons who are enrolled in our caregiver program. And as Dr. Pat just told you, there are many, many persons whose reality is being a caregiver. We would never imagine how many people who we see every day, who we know, and we wouldn't imagine what they are experiencing as caregivers. But there are many, many caregivers in our community, and we just want to reach out to them. I want you to know also that I am going to send Dr. Pont a listing of the resources for caregivers in our community. The listing has on home care agencies, it has transportation services, it has medical supply stores, it has on physical therapy services. So I will send that to Dr. Pont, I will email it to her, and she can forward that to you. Okay, are there any questions from last week's session? Any burning questions from last week's session?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Sam. Yes, and as the presenter, Sister Bradley, is inquiring about any questions or comments, as we go through this, if you have a question or comment, 2 ways you could engage. Simply unmute your mic and wait to be acknowledged, or raise your virtual hand. So as we go through this presentation, if you need to comment, ask a question, make a contribution, simply unmute your mic or raise your virtual hand and you'll be acknowledged. But Sister Bradley, no one has raised a hand, no one has opened a mic, so you can continue with your presentation. God bless.
Okay, so there are 2 things from last week I wanted to expand on. A question about AARP's involvement with our program. So I didn't tell you that in every November is National Family Caregiver Month. So it's a national celebration. And our program, we have things like, we start with a church service, and we have a pizza and movie, we have a games night or a talent night. And AARP at times would sponsor some of these activities. They may sponsor our pizza and movie night, or they may sponsor the purchase of some t-shirts for our activities. So they also play a sponsorship role in our program. So they are involved in that way. There was also a comment about being in a home, asking if there was any oversight, if DHS had any oversight in any of these home care agencies. And my response was no, not to my knowledge. So that is the correct answer. Human Services does not have any oversight over these home care agencies. They are independent facilities. However, if there is any concern about abuse or neglect or any care that is not being rendered appropriately, then Human Services is the entity to report any of these allegations, suspicions to our Adult Protective Services unit. In terms of the providers for the personal care attendant program, the nurses, the nursing assistants, they are guided by the nurse, who is guided by the plan of care that is done by the doctor. So there is oversight of those nursing assistants who have the one-on-one, face-to-face contact with the patients, and they are being overseen by nurses. And again, in this case, if anything is not going right in these agencies, in these entities, a report is to be made to our medical assistance program and also to our Adult Protective Services unit. Okay, so I hope that clears that up. Now, Dr. Pont asked me to talk about some of the nursing homes that I mentioned last week. There are 3 of them, to the best of my knowledge, that exist in the Virgin Islands. There is one that's called, at least in St. Thomas, there's one that's called La Resulta Assisted Living Facility, and that is located, they say, on top Donkey Hill, somewhere in that area. And that is a facility that houses up to 15 persons. Last week, I told you the price, but when I confirmed with them, the price is $4,000 a month, which can be paid. You can have a payment plan to pay that. So that's the La Resulta. That's LA space RESULTA, La Resulta Assisted Living Facility. And they provide the meals and snacks. They take care of you in every way. But the family members have to provide the supplies. If your loved one uses pull-ups, what they call adult undergarments, if your loved one uses those supplies, then you have to provide them. But if that facility would do everything else, take care of feeding, bathing, changing, all of that stuff. Facility would take care of that for you. Now, the other one is called Jerry Care Senior Residential Home, and that is located in Lindbergh, looking over at the airport. That's what they told me, so it has a nice view. So that home is a home where you can go and stay, you can live there, or if you as a caregiver, you need to go away for maybe a few days or a few weeks, and you need to have your loved ones stay somewhere in that meantime, then this Jerry Care Senior Residential Home also can help in that they allow temporary stays for your loved one. So that's Jerry Care Senior Residential Home in Lindbergh Bay. Again, it's $4,000 a month. They have up to a capacity for 7 persons. And again, you provide your own supplies, okay? So those are those two that are independently run senior care homes. And the only one that is run by the Department of Human Services is the Queen Louise Home for the Aged. Right now, as far as I know, they are not accepting any new persons, but I always encourage people to still go on the waiting list. Get yourself on the waiting list, and then when a vacancy becomes available, then you can always be considered for placement there. So to get into the Queen Louise Home for the Aged, you have to go through the Department of Human Services, Adult Protective Services Unit. I've mentioned this unit a couple of times. So they are also in charge of accepting persons, at least accepting the applications for persons who wish to go into the Queen Louise Home. So for these entities, you have to have someone who is putting the person in the homes, have to have power of attorney. You have to have a legal right or duty to make these decisions to be able to place a person in a home. You have to have the power of attorney. And that is that paper that gives you the right to do whatever that senior person requires to be done for their own benefit. Okay, so for Queen Louise Home, if you don't have any money to pay, that does not discriminate against you. But however, if you have an income, then that income goes to the home. Okay, so if you don't have any income, it's okay. But if you do have income, then that also goes to the home as well. Okay, so it requires, again, that you have a power of attorney and that you have to go to take your loved one to the doctor at first and get all that doctor clearance before you can be accepted into Queen Louise Home for the Aged. So those are the 3 homes that I am aware of that we have in St. Thomas right now, serving our seniors and persons with disabilities. Okay, any questions?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Sam. Sister Bradley, I saw a question in the comments. Someone's asking, where is the Queen Louise Home? I know where it is, but I think you could better describe where it is. So please describe for us where the Queen Louise Home is.
One of the landmarks I use is the Lionel Roberts Stadium. The Lionel Roberts Stadium in Hospital Ground. That is the closest landmark, I would say, to Queen Louise Home for the Aged or the Department of Health. You know, the Department of Health has a section there where they do the birth certificates, and I think the what you call those when you need a food handler's card in that area. Well, Queen Louise Home is right next to Department of Health in Hospital Ground. It's a blue and purple building, the same color as Human Services. It has some steps that lead up to the veranda. There's a security guard sitting there. I don't think you can miss it. Okay, so it's located in Hospital Ground next to the Department of Health.
Sister Bradley, someone is also asking for what's the name of the home there, Pearson's Garden. I think that's Lucinda Millen.
Lucinda, yes, those two are often confused. Lucinda
Yeah.
Milling Home for the Elderly, and that facility is owned and operated by the VI Housing Authority, but the Department of Human Services provides what's called nursing support services. So there are nurses there, there are certified nursing assistants, there are homemaker aides who would clean the rooms, but those persons are hired by the Department of Human Services. And you have to request from Human Services to have your loved one be part of these support services so that they can receive assistance.
Brother Sam.
Yes, Dr. Pott. Yes, Dr. Pott.
Can you go over that Lucinda home again? Because I thought it was like an assisted living plus for those who are severely disabled. They have, I don't know. Tell us more about that one.
Yes, I hear that a lot. Lucinda Milling Home was designed as an independent living facility. It is my understanding that housing does not provide, that the VI Housing Authority does not provide housing for persons who are not independent. That is not part of their mandate. That their mandate is to provide independent living. However, persons who went to Lucinda Milling over time, of course, with age, became no longer able to take care of themselves. So at first, the nurses were supplied by the VI Housing Authority, but then Human Services came in and they took over those staff who were nursing staff. So that's how the nursing came about, because the persons who were there, they aged in place, as they call it, and there was nowhere else for them to go. So then nursing support services came into play to help them as they aged. So I believe that maybe on the bottom floor or the bottom floor and the middle floor are persons who receive services from Human Services, because of course they need to be close to the nurses station, they need to be close to the exit. But it's really run and operated by housing in collaboration with the Department of Human Services. Okay.
Thank you, Sister Bradley. I don't see any more questions or comments, so you may continue.
Okay, so Dr. Pond also asked me to talk about Dorcas Care, which is the nonprofit corporation I mentioned last week that is sort of an offshoot of the VI Family Caregiver Support Program. And Dorcas Care came about somewhere in 2008 with different pastors and the faith-based community with the staff of the caregiver program to talk about ways that you could help caregivers to get a break. So out of those meetings with the faith community over those years, Dorcas Care was born. So there's an entity on St. Thomas and there is one on St. Paul. And the whole idea is that we will have what they call a respite center or an adult daycare center that the caregivers can have their loved ones there and they can just get a break. So it will operate on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays from 7:30 to 5 in the evening. And like I said, the seniors, they have to be 55 years and over, will be there. And their caregivers, whether it's their daughter, their wife, their husband, whoever, can just have a break, go shopping, go do their hair, go to St. John and come back, whatever they want to do. And their loved one will be at the center and they will be engaged in activities. They can watch television, they can rest. And they have snacks, refreshments, they'll be playing games, and at certain times they will have outings. So the proposed site for that is the Garden Street Community Center. And that's the location that we have chosen. We will be able to use that and have the seniors gathered there on these days to give their loved ones a break. There's a nominal fee that's involved that the senior or the senior's family will have to pay each time that they come to the center. Okay, so that's the Dorcas Care. So we have meetings every couple of months or so, just to talk about how we can advance this project and make it a reality. So what we are working on now is to have a little video with some caregivers talking, like giving testimonials about how the center, the respite center can help them and their loved ones, and someone else talking about how the center operates. And we want to have this video shown in churches so that the church members and everybody can know what's going on. And we will also need volunteers and also some supplies. So I'm also sending that list to Dr. Pont of supplies that we will need, like toilet paper, paper towel, water, and things like that, so that we can properly take care of the seniors who are there. So again, it will be run by volunteers, and the only paid person will be a volunteer coordinator. So we are looking for volunteers and we're looking for supplies. So if you are interested, please let me know. So I talked about the senior homes, I talked about Dorcas Care, and I am going to wrap up very soon. But I wanted to say something about senior homes or nursing homes. I'm going to say this: be very careful in making promises to your loved one. And think very carefully before you promise your loved one that you won't put them in a home. I know many people have that feeling that, that's the worst thing you can do. If you put your loved one in a home, it means you don't love them. It means that you have given up responsibility. But the reality is that there are certain cases, especially if the person has Alzheimer's, where it's practically impossible to take care of that person at home. People may look at you and say, what? She put her money in a home? I can't believe she did that. Look what she come to. People may talk, but they are not the ones steering that ship. It's your ship. And you should consult with other family members in your support network in making decisions like placing your loved one in a home. And persons who are not part of that, you owe them no explanation, right? You owe them no explanation. You make your decision based on what your family wants. And if your loved one is able to take part in that discussion, please involve him or her. But like I said, be careful about promising persons, I won't put you in a home, because you never know what path the agent will take. And that may be the best choice that you can make to them. The way that I look at it is that nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, they have trained and certified and skilled staff. You get your meals, you get visits, because most nursing homes have, whether it's churches coming in or youth groups, or even people with pets, or they come and they host parties. So you will have fun things and activities to do. You will always have somebody to talk to. The other person's in the home. You gain friendship. And that's how I look at it. So some people may think it's the worst thing in the world to put someone in a home. But you have to weigh your options and think about what's the best thing for the person in their situation. Okay? Because persons with Alzheimer's in their advanced stages, we know that persons start to wander. They unlock the door, they walk out, you can't find them, or they become combative, or they do a number of things that make it very difficult sometimes. So think about that, but try not to make any promises, whether it's about a nursing home or anything, to your loved one, because you never know what path you may have to travel, depending on how the situation is. Are there any questions?
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Sam, and we're to the portion where you now have an opportunity and a privilege to ask Sister Sandra Bradley any questions in regards to any subject matter that she discussed these past nights. And by the way, I did put in the link for the YouTube link for those who missed or want to watch last week's session. If you do launch that particular link after tonight's session, please note that tonight's session would be on that same link once you subscribe to that YouTube page. But with that being said, if you'd like to ask a question, if you have a comment about anything that was shared or something that's been concerning you overall with the topic of concerning senior care, just simply unmute your mic, wait to be identified, and then I would have our presenter, Sister Bradley, who did, again, a wonderful job in presenting this very informative information to you. So again, your options are unmute your mic, raise your virtual hand. If you want to share your comment or question anonymously, please send it to me directly, Sam Brown, and I'll read it on your behalf. But this is your opportunity to get the information and the answers and the responses that you need. And I'm looking to see who might be that first person. Sister Stephanie.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Sister Bradley. Thank you so much for your presentation. I have two questions that came to me, and one is, and you might have answered that one already, but it's asked, isn't Lucinda Millen for independent living? You might have clarified that, but that was one of the questions. I don't know if you want to go back to that right now or you want to hear the other question.
I'll answer it now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Lucinda Millen Home was designed as an independent living facility, but as the seniors, what they call aged in place, and there was nowhere else for them to relocate to, the nursing support services became necessary to assist them. So there are persons who live in that home at varying levels of independence. So there are persons there who are independent, fully independent. They go to work every day. And then there are those who may need a cane, a walker, and there are some who are bedridden. So there are varying levels of independence at Lucinda Millen because of the aging, and there is no place for them to relocate to.
Okay, let me piggyback on that question. So I've been living there for 50 years and I've gotten down, so we have assistance. But what about somebody who cannot help themselves? Would they be allowed to be, they can't help themselves right now, they're new to the program. Will they be allowed to enter there? But that's not the second question, but I'll come back to that one.
Now, the VA Housing Authority is the entity who accepts persons, not Human Services. It's the VA Housing Authority who does that. And depending on your ability to take care of yourself, that's how that decision is made. But that's left up to the VA Housing Authority to make that decision.
Okay, understand. Thank you so much. And the second question is there an income requirement to get home health assistance?
No, there is not. Again, these entities are independent of Human Services, so they set their own rates. There are a few of them who could bill Medicare, but most of them are out of pocket. Now, there is no income requirement.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Sister Stephanie, for that question. By the way, I just saw something pull up in my chat, just a comment. The hesitancy to put our loved ones in our facility, hold a second. Somebody is suggesting how the concern and the hesitancy with putting persons in a home. So let's talk about it. Why are people reluctant to put persons in a home? Why is there hesitancy? Is it because the hesitancy to put our loved ones in a facility, especially in St. Thomas, is a quality of care or lack thereof received, i.e. timeliness of cleanliness of the clients and even the facilities of time, speaking from first-time experience. And someone shared that to me directly to me, of course. Is that a reality? Is that a perception? Is something being worked on, Sister Bradley?
It is a reality. Unfortunately, in some homes, the level of care is not up to the standard that it should be. And what I say that you should do is, before you put your loved one in any home, go to that home first, visit it, find out what they call the staff to patient ratio, how many staff members there are to how many residents, Is there one nurse who takes care of 15 patients? Or is there one nurse who takes care of 5? So of course, the smaller the ratio, the better it is. So it's better if you have one nurse that takes care of 5 patients than one nurse taking care of 15. So observe the process, the day when at feeding time, throughout the day at changing time. Just look and see if it looks like it's something, a place that you can put your loved one. I mean, you wouldn't pick up on everything, but you will get some idea. When you look, you observe, you see how the staff interacts with the patients, and you will get an idea of, is this a good place to put my loved one? Talk to persons who have their family members there and see what they say about the place. But yes, that is the reality about some of these agencies, whether here or anywhere else. Unfortunately, that is a factor. And we saw that played out after COVID, right? So it does happen. But as a family member, be proactive and investigate, visit, find out, ask questions.
Good response. By the way, to piggyback on that, Mr. Bradley, do these facilities allow you to pay surprise visits, or do you have to announce your visit? Could you just pop up at any time to check your facility?
You should call ahead, but if I wanted to put my family in a home, I would pop up. But I, of course, I prefer that you call ahead.
Thank you so much. Good response. Any additional questions or comments? Again, you have a couple options. Unmute your mic, wait to be acknowledged, raise your virtual. Dr. Pond, I see your mic open.
A question. Does human service assist locals to send people away, to get housing away?
Housing? How, like, you mean just to live in a home?
No, assisted living and, those kind of homes.
There are some divisions that assist with sending persons off island, yes. I'm not part of those divisions. I don't know the details,
Okay.
but yes.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Pond. Any additional questions or comments? Again, folks, all 40 of you that's online, these sessions last week, and again, I put back in the link last week's session. After the session, tonight's session is ended. Feel free to review last night's or last week's session, and then eventually this or tonight's session will be loaded. But if you subscribe to the page, you'll be notified when it's ready. I think it's very useful and helpful information, but we don't need you necessarily to be quiet. If you have a question, a comment, a concern, a suggestion, this is the time. This is someone, a subject matter expert who has graciously afforded her time and her expertise on this subject matter that's touching all of our lives. As I said last week, if you're not a senior, no. If you live long enough, you will become a senior. But if any, Dr. Pond, I see your mic open. Dr. Pond, were you trying to share something, Dr. Pond?
Me? No.
Okay, all right, okay. So again, point is, before we end this session, we could make this as long as we need to, but again, if you have a question, a concern, a comment, something of the sort, feel free to open your mic and be identified, raise your hand. We want to give you the opportunity to hear your responses or hear a response, an intelligent response for you this evening. By the way, last week, Sister Bradley shared her contact information at the Department of Human Services. Sister Bradley, I know what it is, but I think they'll adhere to it a lot better if you say it. So could you please repeat your contact information once again at Human Services?
So there are 2 numbers. So my office number is 774-0930, extension 4484. 774-0930, extension 4484. And the cell phone is 340-227-7881. 340-227-7881.